Good evening. This is another test stream. I'm just pretending to hold office hours right now while I have a game in the background. It's just something I've been thinking about doing. Here we have a puzzle called Web Paint by Number, and what I'll do today is I'll choose this one here that's allegedly easy difficulty and 40 by 30 in size. It's called Unfurled, and we see we have a puzzle in two colors, red and blue, and we'll try to figure out what the picture is. So we have 13 blue cells in this left column, and logically it'll turn out that at least these 12 have to be blue. So I'm going to go ahead and fill those in. Now from the left hand side, the numbers on the left say how many cells are of that color. So for example, this 18 here says that there are 18 blue cells. We just showed that the first one is blue, and then it logically follows that the next 17 are blue as well. And what I'm doing at the moment is the same train of thought. Now here in the third column, we see that there is a streak of one blue cell, four blue cells, three blue cells, two blue cells, and then four red cells and four red cells. Since this is already the streak of four, this one has to be the one here. Carry that all the way through. And of note, because there are only red cells left in this column, I know this one's not blue. And it's not going to be red either because there needs to be 7 blue cells somewhere here. So that means these 13s are back up here in the top left. We fill these 12 in. And in this program, I could fill in the information I know already. So now, it's easiest, in my opinion, to start from the edges. So we're going to now take advantage of the information we have here in the top left. Oops. So this here, I just filled in 11. There's no more blue cells, only red. But these two rows here have only blue cells, so these cannot be red or blue. These dots indicate that they are essentially white space. Now this little lip here in the bottom right is convenient. We have filled in a streak of 8 blue cells, and now this one here in the bottom right of this chunk we just completed will start off this next streak of 18, giving us a lot of information. Furthermore, that's the last number in that row, so we know there's nothing else in that row. By a similar train of thought, I could fill in some more of these streaks. Like so. These 13s are most likely going to fill up these cells. 3, 3, 6. Oops. For this 11 here, there are 11 blue cells, but it cannot go below this 7 in the bottom left. So I know that these. Actually, that is exactly 11. These have to be filled in. Now we have this 7 completely figured out. That determines these 13s. Here in this bottom right hand corner where my cursor is at the moment, I was about to label this, but I actually do not know if this square is red or white at the moment. And another row is finished. Here's a blue line, and there turns out to be only 9 columns that could have a blue square in this row. So those 9 have to be there. And it turns out this row here was only had one solution all the way from the beginning. So that's curious. That would have been a good place to start. Same thing with this row. And if I do this in front of the students in office hours, I'd probably ask them to try to guess, or ask the people in chat to try to guess what the picture is. At the moment, I'm not completely sure what the picture is either. Gonna be a lot of information on the top right. So what did I just fill in here? Might have completed all of the blue. A Pyrrhic victory. So now we've completed about the top 40% of the puzzle. Now the challenge is to figure out where we could start the logic chain next. So once again, we'll look for some big numbers here. I'm going to check this right row. 5 blank 4. Wait, sorry. Got a label what I've already done. Now this program does have a hint feature, and what it does is points out literally the next row or column that has places where you could logically figure out some information pretty easily for a computer program that was written about 15 years ago. So here in this row, we have 18 red cells, some sort of space in between them. That is, the space could be one white cell, two white cells, etc. And then another streak of 13. Furthermore, the 18 does not have to start completely to the left, and the 13 does not have to start completely to the right. But what I'm going to do is make this hypothetical that if the cells are filled in as far left as possible, they would be here. And if the cells were filled in as far right as possible, they would be here. What happens is then, thanks to the overlap, these 10 cells have to be red and these 5 cells have to be red. The hassle being then querying just that draft of the work. Now we'll go down to this next row here. I was able to fill in some information from the columns. I think we could get at least that much in. See what a hint guides us next. It says it still wants us to stay here though. So if the 15 stretched all the way to the right, we would end up here. There could be two more here. Could be, but not logically proven yet. And then the 12 would start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know where else I could guarantee red cells. We'll come back to that. We got 11 and 19 on the next row somehow. Going to do that same strategy. Assume all the way to the left, all the way to the right. See where the overlaps are. And then, unfortunately, have to delete the drafts. These could be a bit slow going at times. Here in this row where it says there is a streak of 6 red cells and that's it, that streak of 6 cannot fit in between these 2 white cells. So we're going to eliminate that possibility. That stretches where the red cells can be a little further downwards. Oh, so that's what the logic is. Here it is. 12 to 15 row. If all these red cells were filled in between, this would be row 16 cells, which is a contradiction. So these must be 2 separate streaks. So it means we could stretch this red over here a little bit. So now the computer program is saying we've filled in everything in that 12 to 15 row logically. The next one we could fill in next row we could fill in logically is this one down here, which is 14, 5, 10. way from the left. And all the way from the right. Only able to guarantee those. But it might be a surprising amount of information for those 6 columns. So I was able to break up this 11 and 19 quite a bit. Alright, so now we'll approach this 13 and 17 row. Hopefully that gave us some more information. Was able to pick off a little bit of information in the columns, but not much else in the rows. So the suggestion is to now go into the next row, the one with 11 to 15. See if we could just do this by eyeballing it without having to write everything out. So 11 blank 13, 14, 15. 14, 15 blank 9, 10, 11, and that's all I can do. Is that all for the rows? Now the hints say to look at the columns. hole was it? That one? Three and three. Now, one aspect of these puzzles is that hopefully they are logically solvable in the first place, especially here on the easier difficulties. Now I'm checking if both the 9 and 15 could fit in this gap after this gap of 3 white squares. And that does not appear to be the case. So it means those red streaks cannot reach over here to the right. And it also means that the 9 has to be somewhere in here as well. A surprising amount of information. Whoops, no more. So the 8 and 10 couldn't go in those little gaps. And these 5s are now finally figured out. There we go. That's a big one. Let's see, so the 8 and 10 most likely cannot both fit here in the middle. Because 8 would go up to here. 10 would go up to here, be no white space in between. So that means the 10 actually has to fit all the way over here to the right. Oh, and finally for the row that said 7 blues and 3 reds, we have completely figured that out. I should explain every once in a while what I'm doing. So now in this row of 8, 10, we figure out what a 10 is. The 8 cannot fit in this 3 square gap, so therefore we could determine that is going to be a white square. And otherwise, the 8 has to be here in this span of, what is that, 11? So logically, those 5 that I just highlighted have to be red. Similarly, we could discern some of the squares down here now. So this 18 turned out to go all the way to the left, which is going to be useful here. Now I could fill in all these that also start on the far left. I think that row's done. This 18, 13 was done. And we now have the top 2/3 of the puzzle done. Damn it. Is there an undo button? So now in this next row, it says 5 and 4. That will pretty much constitute these red squares and this red square, meaning on the far left and far right there will not be any red squares. Eight and 4, neither of those could fit in this 2 white square gap. 9, 5, 7, and this nicely laid out red square could be either the 5 or the 9, but guaranteed to be at least 5, so we could fill in that. So if this was the 4, then either this would have to be a 1 or this would actually turn into a 5, which contradicts that this was a 4 in the first place, so this actually has to be the 8. Funny thing is, I was hoping to have this done in about 20 minutes, and it looks like I'm gonna cap out around 45. Left approximately 40% of the puzzles done now. So now for the bottom, we have a 6 and a 3. The 6 and the 3 cannot both fit here in the top, in the bottom right. So the 6 must be here in the bottom left. The 3 is in the bottom right, but I cannot discern exactly where at the moment. Having this bottom information gives us some guarantees. Maybe not as many as I had hoped. But at least got those 5 squares done. That means this 2's here. The program also tells you when you're wrong. So what I had there at the beginning was 4 red squares here towards the bottom right, but this was supposed to be a streak of 3. So that's why I had to fix that. So here in this column it says 14, 4, 3, 1. We figured out the blue 14, the red 4, and the green red. Now the last red one could be here in this white gap, or here in this white gap at the bottom. If we fill in red here at the first choice, there would have to be a solitary red also in this row. But since there is not a number 1 there, that eliminates that possibility, leaving this last red 1 in this column down here. we're done. So if you actually watched this video, I don't know why, but thanks for watching.